Seth, hey, congratulations on your new documentary, Santacon.
Thanks. I'm really excited.
This is an event that, a lot of us remember for many, many years, and some of us don't even know what to think about the event because it's just one crazy event. But that's it's being showcased at DOC NYC. So first of all, how does it feel that this documentary is being showcased at that fine film festival?
Yeah, I mean, Doc NYC is the perfect home for this movie. It's in New York, which is the kind of home of the most infamous and largest and despised, if you will, of the SantaCons. And it's just a couple of weeks before the actual SantaCon. So, just get everybody into the holiday spirit early.
Well said. So tell us, what was the genesis of this documentary? What sparked you to do this documentary in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, this project began 4 years ago. I was at Tom and Jerry bar on Elizabeth Street in New York, and I ran into my old friend Scott Beal, and he mentioned just kind of offhandedly that he had videoed the early years of SantaCon when he and his friends had started. And all I knew about SantaCon was, ew, gross. Like, the reputation of SantaCon, if people don't know, is it's a drunken mess. Like, get away. It's lock up your children, lock up your family. If you have a bomb shelter, now's a good time to use it. It's every New Yorker's nightmare to step outside, not realizing that they're stepping out into SantaCon and then having to navigate the hordes of vomit encrusted red felt. And so I was very like dismissive. I never really thought anything of SantaCon. And then Scott showed me these home movies he had shot in the 90s at the early years of SantaCon, not just in New York, but in the other cities it starred in, San Francisco, Portland, Los Angeles. And I was just taken back in time to this other time. And it so went against what I thought SantaCon was that dissonance, that difference between what I thought it was and what it actually was really just stuck with me. And I knew I had to make this movie.
I mean, what it was is still trying to be figuring out because what we're talking about
Yeah.
the organization of the cacophony society, which started decades ago, but they're no longer around today, or at least I think they're no longer around. They're probably in spirit, they're still around.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view Coffee Society as like this Rosetta Stone, patient zero of much of the modern underground love. The events they did literally are still around. They also created Burning Man, and many other things, but also just the ideas they pioneered would stick around. Like they basically created what we would now call a flash mob. They did all of these just random, oftentimes one-off, weird freak out events like SantaCon, like the original Burning Man that were never built with the intention of sticking around for all these years, but then sometimes they just sort of would. And in doing so, I think they really, you wouldn't have Jackass if it wasn't for Cacophony Society. You wouldn't have Nathan Fielder if it wasn't for the Cacophony Society. You wouldn't have all of these things. You wouldn't have Burning Man. I just think it was, I think there's an argument to be made that it was this incredibly influential, like again, like Rosetta Stone of modern culture and the modern underground.
Now, the hardest part for your documentary is to track down the folks from the Cacophony Society, since technically they're not, truly active today, and you're talking about the founders over 30 plus years ago. Tell us about how you found all these subjects for your documentary.
Yeah, I mean, cacophony doesn't really exist anymore, but a lot of these people are still out there doing cool stuff under different, umbrellas, under different banners, or just on their own, or just doing it in kind of an underground fashion that's not designed to be publicized in the sort of social media era, right? And it wasn't actually that difficult to find these folks, because I went into this with the support of my friend Scott, who had videoed this footage, was friends with a lot of these guys. It just became a matter of him introduced me to people, and a lot of them had seen my previous work with Class Action Park in particular. And I think just based on them seeing that, they sort of trusted that I would do right by them and right by the story.
So it's easy to convince many of them to participate. They want their stories to be told.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was easy. It wasn't impossible. And oftentimes you're working on projects and it is very, very difficult to get people to talk, especially if you're dealing with a story involving criminal behavior or real trauma or hardship or loss. This wasn't that kind of story. This is a story in which I think a lot of the people involved wanted somebody to tell the story. I think it was a matter of convincing them that I was the right person to tell that story. And so spending time with these people before we ever started filming, at times I got the feeling they were kind of testing me. It's like maybe we find ourselves randomly walking into a building that's abandoned and we're not supposed to be there. And they're kind of seeing, can I roll with this? Like, do I have in me, I suppose, the spirit of cacophony? And I guess I won them over.
It's amazing. So you started with Scott's footages, but it seems like you probably went beyond Scott footages in this case. Can you talk about gathering all these old footages and converting them, for high, you know, more profile for your
Mm.
documentary?
Yeah, I mean, there'd be moments when I'd be looking at this old footage and I just see another guy in a Santa costume holding a camera. And it would be like freeze frame, put on my detective hat. Who is that guy, right? And I'd try to find the perfect photo where you could actually see any defining facial features through a Santa hat and a fake beard. These guys did make it easy on me by basically all being in disguise as Santa. And so then we'd find other people filming the same scene from another angle with another camera, and then we're stitching together scenes from multiple angles. And that was really cool. And a lot of people who shot this footage, they did me, it kind of felt like this uh, time traveling collaboration where I felt like I was working really hand in hand with people who happened to have shot this footage 30 years ago. In particular, folks like Chuck Serino, who shot most of the San Francisco footage, folks like Herod Blank, who shot a bunch of New York with just beautiful 16 millimeter film. And just how I was just blown away at how, first of all, quality the footage these folks shot. I mean, these guys were pros. They knew what they were doing, shooting the stuff, even though I can't imagine any of them expected anybody to ever watch this footage again. That's what was kind of amazing to me. And it was really great to work with them. All of them are just awesome people with really great creative hearts.
It is amazing what you could actually accomplish before the age of cell phones,
Yeah.
videos. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people just acted differently back then when they didn't imagine that somebody filming them would put it online or put on social media, right? So they're being filmed with a giant lug it on your shoulder camcorder, but they're not moderating their behavior with the expectation this could show up on Instagram or on TikTok. They're just being idiots and beautiful, creative, chaotic idiots at that. And so you have these moments on camera that any reasonable person would never allow themselves to be filmed doing today. Like in 1998, the very first year it's in New York City, a couple of the Santas just decided to climb to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, which was never a legal thing or safe thing to do. But it's certainly something you probably wouldn't want to be filmed doing today in sort of the era of Instagram and surveillance cameras everywhere for that matter.
When you spoke to all these folks, did you get a sense that they're proud of what they did or kind of regret of what they did? Because, there's an evolution of what they actually started, but what it is today, it's not the same. Because, like, for example, Burning Man is so commercialized, it's not the same what it would when it first started.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting question. And I think a big part of what the story the film tells is sort of, I think, the evolution of people who might rue what their creations have become, but still feel pride in creating them, and how they're sort of able to create distance between those two things. And I think largely the film to me ends up becoming a story about the need to step aside from your own creations and allow other people to run with them without being too precious about it and without feeling angry about it and without feeling the need to control what other people do with things you've created. And I think there's something very beautiful about that. We have folks in this film who I think spent many years kind of resenting what Santacon had become, but now as they get older, kind of have a sense of pride in it because they're able to say, you know what? This isn't for me anymore, but people are having fun, so who cares?
Well, we're still having fun, most certainly. And
Yeah.
one of the things I want you to remark about is one of your subject, Chris Radcliffe, the late
Mhm.
Chris Radcliffe. Talk about him because he's a primary central character throughout this, and I mean he was wild.
Yeah, Chris Radcliffe is one of the strongest voices in our film. He was kind of the original Bad Santa, just absolute pure, unfiltered id and chaos, a truly uncontrollable human. who really, I think, found a way to live life. And I think Chris's point of view in this film, and he gives us these, I think, incredibly eloquent monologues, basically, about what it means to live a good life and all the lessons he's learned as he gets towards the end of his life. I think that gave us just this thematic backbone of the film, really a sense of what the film is actually about, which to me is how do you live a good life when in the rubble? How do you live a life of creativity and collaboration in a world that feels oppressive and depressing? And how do you find a way to eke joy and happiness and fun out of whatever time we have on this earth?
Wow, well said. So what's up next with you, Seth? What underground activity are you going to start covering? Or maybe there is a secret fight club out there that you.
I mean, if you're got any invites, let me know. I'll start getting into shape now. Um, no, like oftentimes filmmakers are able to talk about what they're working on, and oftentimes they're not. And I'm sort of at the stage where I can't at the moment, unfortunately.
No, I've seen a few of your documentaries. I completely
Yeah.
understand your secrecy in this case. But Seth, let me leave with one last thought here. As audiences will have a chance to watch Santacon, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with?
I hope they walk away with a feeling of creativity and a feeling that there's no need to spend your life in an emotional routine. That there's a way of, even if the world around us seems to suck, there's a way of having fun. There's a way of having joy. And there's a way of collaborating with other people who bring you fun and bring you joy. And that to me is what this movie's about.
Well, it's a lot of fun to watch this movie because it's a learning experience, and these folks are fun-loving people. That's for sure. So
Yeah. And I hope people who watch the movie have fun watching the movie at that. If I can give people 90 minutes of a good time, I'm happy.
you certainly did. Thank you very much, Seth, for speaking to us about SantaCon. Enjoy, um, Doc NYC.
Thanks, Gig.
Thank you.